Sit back and relax with some Train Kickers podcast. I'm Dave, and along with my co-hosts Dan and Steve, we take all around the world of miniature wargaming. For tonight's episode, for anyone who's watching, you can see that Steve is not with us tonight. He has some obligations that are kind of keeping him busy Monday through Thursdays for at least the next while. Whenever that changes, we'll obviously let you know. But in lieu of having him, the idea of what we're going to end up doing tonight, we're going to be taking a bit of a, we've been taking a break, but taking a bit of a break from 30K and that sort of chat and talk a little bit about Battletech. So the idea of this is in the past, we used to do some episodes related to the overviews of what the game is like, why to play, why not to play, all the different aspects to it. We're going to do the same thing tonight for this. So that'll be the main thing we get to. Shouldn't be much else. And we'll talk about any other updates and stuff like that at the end. All right, and now on to the show. All right, Dan, how are you doing this? You had a concert tonight for your daughter?
Yeah, no, it was a birthday gift. Danny Go. I don't know if you know who Danny Go is.
Not a clue.
Or probably already of our listeners. Some listeners might have kids. Danny Go is like, do you know who Raffi is from back in the day?
Raffi? That sounds made up. Back in whose day?
Oh, God. Back in my day. He does like YouTube channel for kids, right? And he does like really like animations and songs. And the whole entire thing is like get them moving and dancing. And the songs are actually kind of fire, not gonna lie. Like he has like it's more like electronic rock. It's kind of like that, but they're like, Caterpillar song, wiggle, 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 stuff like that.
All right.
And so this was his first ever live performance ever. He started only in 2019. So I was going in half expecting, there were gonna be mistakes and everything. There was like one mistake at the very, very end where they played the wrong song and we all start laughing. He goes like, I'm allowed one. It's my first. So it was really cute. But honestly, it was fire. It was actually really good. We paid extra for VIP to her to meet them in person.
Okay.
And usually how they say like don't meet heroes and stuff like because they can be assholes.
Yeah.
They were some of the nicest people I have ever met. And it wasn't like acting, like you could kind of tell when they're fake. Oh, look.
Yeah.
They were legitimately cool people, right? I was talking with the one dude while my daughter was talking to the rest of the cast. And they were just wonderful. So I was like, okay, that's a good start. But then, it set off the, we went down, they started it was like a music concert essentially, because it's all music.
Yeah.
And it was legitimately fire. Like the drummer was great. The bassist was great.
So I can't click on it, but is it a TV show?
No,
is it just music? I'm seeing like a lot of YouTube stuff. Obviously, I can't click.
This you have to know because of like news. Do you know who Rachel is?
She's not Madonna. You can't go by a first name.
Damn it! No, that's her name. It's Rachel.
So her name is just Rachel.
Yeah, she's.
And why would I know who this Rachel is?
Oh, God damn it! Did Blue's Clues do like musicals? I can't like remember anything in our childhood that did like musicals.
I mean, I'm not as far as I know, but I understand the thing of it. I know like
it's all it is. It's
Pajanimals or PJ Masks and stuff like that. Like that.
And there's a guy with a teddy bear head, or his name is Bearman or Bearhead. There's a scientist, and it's like they have like themes. It's like the Bug song.
Yeah, I pulled up to be able to see it. I just wasn't sure if it was a TV show or is this like a pure kids YouTube. This dude's
it's kids
crushing
YouTube.
Views. Okay,
that's exactly what it was, and it just started blowing up. And she watched it in preschool, and the teacher was like, "Hey, he's visiting New Jersey," and I didn't realize this was his first ever. I didn't realize that when he said it, I was like, "Oh shit," they were good. But he blew it out. He actually started tearing up a little bit in the last song. The last song he played was the first song he did in 2019. Yeah. And he goes, if you guys know the words, sing along. If not, don't worry about it. It's my first song. We all started singing along, and he like started choking up, and it brought a smile to my face.
Where was this?
State Theater in New Brunswick.
Okay, so like a small theater, but I mean, hey, it's legit either way.
Oh, it was packed. Yeah, it was completely packed. I think he was not realizing how popular he was.
It's got to be hard to know because like you can look at your views, but like okay, I have some younger nephews, and like when kids go on the internet, they have no problem watching the same video 700 times in a day.
Yeah,
as also they click. So like your views might be crazy, but you don't know what that truly means at that.
And the kids were like dancing in the chairs. They were going nuts. My daughter was going nuts.
Yeah.
It was, but like I said, the music wasn't like, it's like some kid shows and some music is just like, you're just like, oh my God, just God, stop already, please. It hurts.
Yeah, it's not Caillou the music.
The music is actually legitimately good. I don't know who designs the music, but it's actually like a club techno / rock and roll music. It's actually legitimately
All right.
catchy. And I hate to say that, but like
Well, all right. When we're not on recording, I will listen to some of it and
there's
I will
the
critique
robot energy is probably my favorite.
robot
The
energy.
yeah, the lyric part is but once it gets to the chorus, I got robot energy. It's just catchy. And it's like, damn. And they teach about like batteries and stuff and like up and down and drawing shapes. It's a kid show.
Oh,
But yeah, no,
yes.
no. No, it's just it was cute. She loved it. Lost
Okay.
her damn mind. Then I got her some pizza, and now she's having a sleepover at grandma's house.
Oh, there you go.
But yeah, that's been, and then I've been painting. That's about it.
I have had no kid shows, nothing crazy like that. So otherwise not too much. At least more recently. Did put out the review that you did. I put out another episode of something else
Yeah,
today
I
as
saw.
of recording. Have a few other things working. I'm currently transferring to start working on some battle report stuff. We've been recording those on Mondays. Said I don't know what format they're going to come in for. They're currently Conquest, but might be
Yeah.
other games just depending on what we do. But we've been doing that now on Monday
I do have
evenings.
another review I gotta do. I told you
Okay.
this already, but for the listeners, I have another review coming up for Conquest specifically
Mhm.
because I've actually realized I never reviewed Baron of Dice's dice.
Yeah,
Um,
most
which is
people either
weird
know
because
him.
I
Yeah,
own all of that. I
yeah.
have
I got
Mechanic of
about three different
Eldar.
sets.
And I was looking at something like I've never actually reviewed his dice, so I'm gonna review that. But I also have this really neat like Old Dominions thing that I use.
Oh, yeah,
That's really
that's I
yeah
have
from
mine
the
coming
Etsy
in, and
store.
I've been showing that it's been recorded view wise. It just hasn't been done yet
Yeah,
because
so
of
I'll
it's on the
review that
battle
because it's
reports.
actually amazing. I'll
Yeah,
hit up that. But yeah, other than that, yeah, no, I've just been painting and kind of relaxing this summer, waiting for the new baby to come. So
there you go.
that's what I did.
When's that supposed to be? Is it like 2 weeks
Supposedly the
something?
28th.
28th.
Supposedly
Okay,
the 28th, but second pregnancies are always something they maybe arrive quicker, but they come quicker.
okay,
So yeah.
all right. And then I'm sure at least it'll be you'll be a little MIA for a bit until things calm down enough for you to be able to
Oh,
get like
absolutely.
an hour here or there. But
Essentially.
well, I know we're trying to schedule. I can't remember the name of the game with Franco on like some Saturdays here and
Oh
there.
God.
Tanaris or something like that. I
Tanaris.
forget.
It's Tanaris.
Yeah,
It's darker version of what's the game you guys played?
Gloomhaven.
Gloomhaven. It's darker version of Gloomhaven. It's if Gloomhaven had dark souls in it.
Well, that's essentially somewhat Kingdom Death Monster, but I don't like Kingdom Death
Yeah.
Monster.
It's more of the, I should say, it's more of like, I guess, the fluff of it
Yeah,
rather than, yeah.
yeah. I know he got that in like a giant, I don't know, 3 or 4 box set or something like that. So
Good.
yeah, no. Otherwise, I not really much on my end. Started to get back to painting. I said tons of editing to do, and then working and all. And we'll see from all of that. But
Yeah.
we might as well, because when it's a topic that you enjoy, you can talk for just about
Yes.
forever on something.
I'm going to
So
try not to be biased. I'm going to try not to be
you're
biased,
already
but
you
as,
okay.
yeah.
So your bias was already. We
Disclaimer.
said at the end we always had to say like why you might not want to play, because not every game is for
Yeah.
everyone. Let's be honest.
Very
And
true.
and your first thing was like, oh, there's no reasons not to play this. I'm like, no, there absolutely is.
Yeah.
And like we'll label some off because not
Disclaimer
every
is
game is
I've
for
been
everyone.
playing this game since I was probably a teenage, probably even a preteen in the early 90s.
Mm,
So, or not early, late 90s, early 2000s. So
yeah,
I have a lot of history with this game. Um, and I've always enjoyed it. So
yeah.
there's my one disclaimer that I'm going to try to not be biased, but it will come through.
All right. All right. After that brief pause, we are now ready. So, for anyone, it's been a little bit since we've done one of these. Overall design, we're going to start with like an elevator pitch. We'll talk about the history of just the game kind of itself. We'll talk about different facets to it, like cost, what you need, what its plays like, all of that. Just a general overview. The goal of this is if you either have a passing interest in it, you might learn enough to figure out if you want to get into it or not, or if you've heard it talked about, maybe don't know enough about it, this can give you a better idea of what this game really is and figure out if this is something for you. I know at least for the longest time I didn't see it anywhere, effectively just about anywhere, but now I've seen it pop up, and I'm on, I don't know, like 7 different game stores, Discords, and I pop into like 5 or 6 different game stores. And it's something talked about, if not always played everywhere, but talked about everywhere now and played when people can get to the table. So it's definitely a bigger thing now. So, why don't we start with you giving the elevator pitch for anyone who's not familiar? The elevator pitch is essentially the 30-second try to sell someone on the idea so that way they want to know more.
All right,
So,
so
elevator pitch it.
BattleTech is essentially Game of Thrones, but in space with giant robots. Is essentially the easiest way to put that.
Okay.
It's an entire galaxy-wide war over many hundreds of years. Giant robots take the battlefield, but there's also tanks, helicopters, infantry. Well, let's see, it's about the giant mechs, uh, and it's Game of Thrones. It's no one's great, everyone sucks, no one is a nice person, everyone kills each other. It's great, and the game is great too. The game represents that effectively, I should
Yeah.
say.
I would say someone said that this is a sort of game, and Dan has some spot, and I'm gonna make sure he doesn't go for too long, but he definitely has a lore thing where he went by the different periods and all that.
That was
stuff.
it cut down.
Yeah, oh, I'm
I
sure
want
it
to
was.
put
No,
that
I
was
know
it
it is
very
because this game.
very cut down.
How long has the game been out for? It's like 30 some years.
Since the 80s. Since the 80s.
80s, yeah.
So yeah.
And effectively, the game hasn't changed. For all intents and purposes, it's like the same
It just
game.
keeps going.
Yeah.
You know how people complain about like Warhammer 40K? Oh, I wish they pushed the lore. And they just kind of pushed it with Gilliman right now and everything
Yeah.
and the Ripper Cross. They have been pushing the lore since the 80s. I'm not actually joking. Every decade is pretty much unlocked a new time period. It's not a past progression system. It's not like, oh my God, what was that game's name in Warhammer 40,000 where it was Chaos 1 and they retconned it for the Imperium to win? That was Armageddon, right?
I
Or
remember
was
the
that
one from
Cadia?
Fantasy where Chaos was winning, and they
They
had an orc war boss come in, punch Archeon in the face, and like knock him out, and then walk
So-
away, like
Oh my
drop the
God.
mic style.
So this is not that game. This is
Yes.
not that lore. Let me give you a very good example. There's one of the coolest merc companies in the world. Oh my God, I just forgot I literally had their name.
I got a
in
great
my-
example. I don't remember
Yeah,
any of this.
Jesus Christ. Oh, you ever had that moment where you're about to say
Never.
something and like, oh my God.
I plan to strategize better than you do. Now he's actually looking it up. What I'll say while he's looking
no,
that
I
up.
got it.
Okay,
I forgot
go ahead.
the Black Rose or Black something. Point is, they were really cool. Everyone loved them. A lot of people painted their mechs like them. And during one of the planetary wars or one of the time periods, they
Yeah.
nuked a planet. Not them, but one of the I'll get into it later, but someone nuked a planet. And I guess the author didn't realize that the last book that they wrote about this mercenary group, they were on that planet. And
Ooh.
so instead of saying, oh, they escaped, they said, oh no, they're all dead now.
Nice.
It's just gone. It's like Red Wedding style. Oh, we nuked the planet. You really like them? Sucks to suck. They're dead.
Yeah.
So it is that kind of level of like, don't fall in love with a certain. I like a clan, the Ice Hellions. They don't exist anymore. They got absorbed. We'll talk about that later too. But yeah, it's just this is that kind of level of just.
What- I meant not quite in terms of. I meant since the game itself, the actual pure gameplay has come out. The game has essentially been the same.
Yes.
Yeah.
Other than a few erratas and some minor tweaks of the rules where they go back and forth on how something is done,
Mhm.
that the game has stayed. I stopped playing the game when I went to college. So that was what 2007 to 2012, 2013. And I only started going back to Maplewood Hobby in like 2015, 2016 when I was a little bit
Yeah.
older. So that's almost a 10-year difference.
Mhm.
I started playing Battletech with John, God bless his soul, who went back to Arizona. I started playing Battletech with John in that store. It took me one game to remember how to play.
Yep.
And nothing changed.
No.
Not a damn thing changed.
But that's more of what I mean when I say, the longevity of this. This is, to me, I don't get into the lore. There's way too much of it. I didn't grow up with this. I honestly don't care about the lore personally. And that's just me.
Yeah.
There's lore I care about, but this is not one of them. But I don't think you have to actually know any of the lore or care about the lore at all to actually play.
No.
Because the game doesn't need the lore to support it. It can if you wish to delve that way. But otherwise, if you just want to play with robots, you can just play with robots,
robots,
and enjoy that
exactly.
sort of thing.
It gives you'll see very quickly that this is a very open style game as well. But again, that's something we'll
Yeah.
go into.
All right.
Uh, Brief history of Battletech, real quick. I'm not going to go too much into it because much like its actual lore, it's stupidly complicated because there are lawsuits in its history.
Yep.
Um, but to give you a very, very brief, uh, Battletech was created by FASA, um, who essentially made these really cool mechs that looked like Robotech designs. And it was because there was a discrepancy in the copyright between point is today essentially what happened was that there was a bunch of lawsuits going back and forth. They removed those mechs from the actual lore. For a while the company wasn't doing well. It was kind of in the in the lower tier of no one really knowing it up until about Catalyst took over. Catalyst is the company that essentially owns, I think, the copyright right now, and it's shared
They
amongst
do.
other people as well. So it's like, for example, it's shared with Mech Warrior Online. That's PGI. Talk about that in a second as well. Um, but Catalyst essentially owns the main Battletech franchise, and they've been essentially revitalizing. I know Dave hit this very quickly, but you'll find Battletech in Barnes and Noble, Target, Toys R Us, and most hobby stores. They even had a Kickstarter recently. And Catalyst has done a very, very good job of just kind of revitalizing the franchise to the point where it's actually becoming a little bit more mainstream than I realized. Not as mainstream as Warhammer, but definitely up there on the, I've seen someone pick this up at Target or Barnes and Noble just to see what it is, you know? And that's essentially your brief history. If you ever want to like look into it, what happened with FASA and the lawsuits and the Japanese company that owned the Robotech designs, but they didn't want to that's a whole other that I could spend literally another entire podcast just on. Actually, there are podcasts on literally that entire term of history. But right now it's Catalyst, and they've been doing an excellent job doing stuff with it. So that's your brief history, essentially. I kept it
That's
small.
yeah. All right, so that's a little bit of brief history related to the company. Like Dan said, you can, if you want to know more, there's
This
spots that this is all they
the
do.
I always laugh because like when we talk about the lore of Battletech a little bit later, it's all complicated and everyone's killing it. And I always laugh because like the original company had this level of complication and like lawsuits and hatred between each other. So it's actually kind of funny that it's replicated in the history of
Mm.
the actual. It's I don't know. I just find it funny. All right, so let's go into the first reason why you play BattleTech. And I could go into the lore, I could go into the gameplay, but I actually want to start with something a little bit nicer due to the economy. Um, the cost and the models. So let's start with cost. I'm going to first say that the cost of BattleTech is cheap. Now, let me explain this because normally when you hear cheap, someone, for example, say, and I remember we did this with Infinity, right? Where we said
Mhm.
Infinity's cheap to start, but some people are like, oh, but you will eventually buy more of a collection, and
The
eventually
big
Infinity does
the
get.
big thing to keep in mind is
Yeah.
it's a skirmish game for all intents and
Yes,
purposes. And skirmish games are always cheap to usually start, and then you may
yes.
always expand to do much more.
This is where it differs. This is the same thing. You could buy a box for, I think they're what, $20, $24 on
At
Barnes and
least
Noble.
25 to 30 normally.
25, 30.
Yep.
Buy a box, comes with 4 mechs or 5 if you're doing a clan set. That's probably the $30 ones. So you get 5 plastic mechs, or 4 Innersphere mechs, right? Um, and that's it. You could literally just use that box and use it for years if you wanted to. What's cool about this is you might be saying, but what if I wanted to collect more? What if I wanted to buy more? Right? Is it going to be as expensive? And the answer is actually no, because the boxes don't really get more expensive, right? It's not like, oh, the next box I'm going to buy is $50 for 4 mechs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's the same. In fact, where is it? Oh, I picked the wrong box. Boo.
Yeah, you did.
Yes. Oh, it's over there. Whatever. If you go to Target right now, they have a sale on the Battletech boxes for half off, $12. Gets you 2 mechs, gets you a map, gets you quick start rules. Or on Amazon, I don't know. Let me see. I got to pull up the camera though, because I'm looking at my notes at the same time. This was $24 on Amazon. It's a Battletech beginner box. Comes with 2 mechs, comes with cardboard cutouts. I'll talk about this in a second. I'll show you this in a second. It comes with cardboard cutouts, comes with a mat, everything you need to play. That was $24. It doesn't really go past 40.
No.
Like and it's good. It's basically you're paying $5 per mech, sometimes $6 per mech. That's about it.
Yeah.
And in this economy, with most of the games that like Games Workshop, um, most of the Games Workshop
Well,
honestly is the biggest.
large scale
Yeah,
games is
yeah,
also
large
the
scale
other
games.
thing, of course.
They get expensive. Like a
Yeah.
box of 5 custodians is $55.
Yeah.
That's a lot to tell a kid to drop on. Versus, hey, here's a $12 box, comes with 2 mechs and quick start rules. Enjoy.
Yeah. And to give a little prefacing for that as well,
Yeah.
if someone actually is really unfamiliar with this, um, a lot of times when you play your points value, and we'll go what that means and all, a
Yes.
lot of times that's legitimately 2 to 3 mechs at
Yeah.
like a good size game. I'm not even talking like, oh, we're playing like the small version. No, your full game, you're honestly probably looking at 1 to 4 unless you're doing like some weird stuff. I've seen when they were playing the other day, full points games, two mechs on one side, I think 3 mechs on the other. So
Yeah.
a box is legitimately a full army or more than an army, depending on the type that's in
We
it.
will talk about BV later too and how ridiculously balanced a stupid thing is. But it's at most in a normal game, and I like normal, at most I've seen like 5 to 6 mets, and that's like pushing it. You're using the
Yeah.
lightest of light mechs. Would die to a swift breeze, essentially. So yeah, no, you need 1, 2, 3, 4 mechs. And what's cool is you can actually adjust the pilots and stuff. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
So yeah, collecting mechs is cheap. Um, which is nice. What also is interesting about this company is while it doesn't outright say 3D print our models, because obviously no company wants to say that, they also haven't like they will outright say you can play painted, unpainted. They even say, listen, you want to try out mechs? Here's a sheet where you can print out mechs, a piece of paper, and move it around a map. Play with bottle caps for all we care.
Yeah.
I mean, for Christ's sake, so give you an example. Like, here's a mech. Here, let me open up this. Here's a mech model, right? I know the light is right there, so it
That's all
shadows,
right.
but here's a mech model, right? Open a mech model. But in the starter set, you get these cardboard
Yep. Cardboard
cutouts,
shots.
right? You can play with these. These are absolutely official. You can use these, or you can use these, or, and I have this in my notes, like 3D printed, right? There's a 3D printed model. So, like, they don't say outright, hey, steal our designs and 3D print it or sell it online, but they will be like, you want to use bottle caps? Use bottle caps. We don't care. Have fun with our game. And that's kind of nice for a company to do, period.
Yeah. Do they sanction any particular printers or anything like that? Or no?
What do you mean? Like they say use these printers?
Yeah, in other words, like some game system, like okay, like Baron of Dice does the official dice for a lot of different games. Everyone else has to call it, Space Elves, but they're allowed to call it,
Oh, so
like Eldar and stuff like
this is where
that.
it gets weird. I have this a little bit later, but I'll talk about it now anyway.
Yeah.
So first of all, the models. Let's talk about the model.
Mm.
The Catalyst has spent most years of its current ownership redesigning a lot of the models. Dave would probably agree, but the old models sucked.
Yeah, they were bad.
The old models, they were bad. They were designed in the 80s and they were terrible. Um, absolutely horrible.
Yeah.
A lot of the redesigns for these models look actually fantastic. Like the Kodiak, which looks like a bear. Kodiak looked goofy as hell originally. It was just dumb. Now they gave it some bulk, they gave it some lines, some details, some claws. It actually looks like a legitimate mech. So a lot of the redesigns, the official redesigns are great. The 3D printing that I mentioned and what you're mentioning
Mm.
is where it gets interesting because normally they obviously you can't really 3D print their official models, right?
Yes, of course
But
not.
this is where we go into PGI and Harebrained Studios. These are the guys who produced the Battletech video game and MechWarrior Online and also MechWarrior 5.
Mm.
If you notice, those models are different from the Catalyst official models. Not by much, not by much. There is some overlap. I wish I had some in front of me. But there's some overlap, but overall, the PGI Harebrained designs tend to be more modern or
Okay.
realistic than the more sometimes more cartoonier BattleTech versions. Like the Kodiak here really doesn't look cartoony, but it's got curves and angles, right? Whereas the PGI one is more cubed and more squared, right? It looks like a modern battle tank.
Mm.
Um, those get 3D printed essentially. Um,
So does that
Mostly,
company say that people can 3D print them?
not really, but they also
Okay.
don't
So
say no.
well,
Like
but
it's one of those like it's like don't sell here. I'll put it this way. You go on Etsy, right?
yeah.
And there are some official stores. These are large stores. I mean Etsy, so official's kind of weird to say. But there are official stores that sell 3D prints of the MechWarrior Online models. And they've been doing it for years and they haven't been taken down. It's mostly because PGI, while they own the designs to those mechs, they don't print actual miniatures. So I think they just actually don't care,
Okay.
which is weird to say when a company is. It's hard because you think of companies that are so litigious when it comes to their
Well,
when it
uh,
comes to their brand or
well,
their
but
models,
okay, but
but
that's a
yeah,
factor of IP law, not necessarily on the
yeah,
company. The way, for anyone who isn't aware, the way American IP law works for intellectual properties is it is based off a precedent, which is most American law. So
yeah,
what this means is the reason why Disney will send cease and desist to a preschool that paints a Disney character up on the wall. It's because if they don't, and I'm not saying this is right or wrong, because if they don't, then later, if you were to say design something with their stuff on it, you could say, well, hey, they didn't do anything about that. I'm using this. I'm not using it in any different way than they did. So therefore, you can't really come
there's
after
the
me.
precedent exactly.
Because of that, it does mean that sometimes companies, may not want to go after someone small doing something, but if they don't do it now and someone else does something more, they could lose their legal standing.
Exactly. And it's weird because again, MechWarrior Online does not produce miniatures. Catalyst doesn't use their models in their
Mm,
plastic either. They use their own designs, right? So it's kind of this weird gray space where no one's printing their models. There are files out there with the 3D, like the model itself, and you just scale it down. So people just print them, and that's kind of it. Eventually, maybe if MechWarrior Online prints its own models or Harebrained Studios does it, but it's one of those weird things where it's like no one actually cares. It's not like I'm printing a Space Marine and using them.
mm,
It's I'm printing a Mad Cat and there's no model of this Mad Cat to buy, so I'm printing it for myself
all right.
or buying someone. But like I said,
It
it
still doesn't
can be
legally
shut
actually
down.
make it okay,
No,
but
I know it doesn't make it okay, but it's one of those things where it's like, no one really cares, which is nice. That's cost in models. And what's
mm,
really funny, I know you mentioned the 3D printing. I 3D printed because I'll be honest, the old mechs looked bad. But with a lot of the new redesigns, I've really not had to 3D print at all. Like there's maybe like one I don't appreciate, and that's like the Marauder. I hate the Zentradi look to it. And for
mm.
those who like Robotalk, it looks like a Zentradi battle pod or whatever they're called. Um, I prefer the MechWarrior Online version, so I printed that version of the Marauder. But almost like 98% of my mechs are all just the straight plastic.
Yeah.
They just look better. They look good. All right. So let's talk about the lore. Now, I am going to, as you see me
Keep
scratching,
it
for those not watching, I'm scratching my eyes. Um,
keep it
Battle, yeah, I know. Battletech
keep it
lore
relatively
is
brief.
is yes is long. All right. Like I said, I'm not sure if this is correct. I'm gonna posit this out there. Someone maybe on YouTube could correct me. I think this is the most lore expansive game. I cannot think of a game that has this much level of lore
Well,
ever.
okay. So
And I'm putting the gauntlet out there.
what what makes it in terms of when you say so much, is it because they
Yeah.
have a lot of books about it or because
Well, it's the
they detail the
books,
level of history?
the detailed level of history, the books, the narrative books, the narrative campaigns. Um, it you can deep dive into a planet if you wanted to, and it would actually make sense. Have you ever played the BattleTech what you call it? The not the MechWarrior Online, Dave, but like the
Yeah, the
BattleTech
other
video
game,
game,
yeah. No, I
Hairbrain.
played it. Yep.
Remember how when you open up the universe map, all those planets are clickable?
Yeah.
All of those planets have pages and pages of lore
Yeah.
and
I
battles and just nuts.
I mean, I would hazard, at least to some extent, that GW for 40K does a somewhat similar job because they've had hundreds of books
Yes.
they've written about it. They may not go to that level of all of the things, but part of the idea in that is, you know, a size infinitum. So like there's more
Yes.
planets that you could ever actually decide to talk about, kind of thing.
It's just interesting. I think I don't know who's got more, but I want to hazard that it is BattleTech. And I love Games Workshop, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But BattleTech lore does get very, very tedious. It's history. It's literally
Yes.
history in the future. What was someone said? Someone made a joke. It's like having 1980s in the future, I think is what someone said.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I'm going to give you a brief breakdown of the lore. Essentially, there are, I think, 12 eras you can play. Now, again, this is for fluff reasons. You could limit yourself to an era. You could say, hey, I'm playing 3025 here, the mechs I need for 3025, but whatever. So essentially, you have the Age of War, which is 2005 to 2570. These are your first ever battle max. No one plays this era. But fun fact, there is a box you could pick up to play this era if you want. It's
Hmm.
called the Proliferation box. It's got 6 mechs in it, 5 mechs in it, and they're all from Proliferation. They all become extinct by the
All right. Dan's no longer a robot or missing. I believe you were leaving off. You're talking about just the Age of War. I think you got through the fact, hey, there's a box for that. You can play
succession.
that.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
wow. I was that far back. Jesus.
Yes.
All right. So Age of War, Proliferation,
Yep.
uh,
We went through that
Box to buy,
scenario into
whatever.
Star
Okay,
League.
exactly. So Star League is your Pax Romana, lasts for about 200 years. Um, that's about it. It was the galaxy was at peace. This is when also the great houses start forming. So like you have House Davion, House Steiner, Draconis Combine. These are think Game of Thrones. These are your houses of the Galactic Empire. Then you have World War One, World War Two. This is your early succession war and late succession war. This lasts a long ass time. This is 2781 to like 3029. Um, this is also tends to be the more popular where people like to play because people like to play 3025-ish. Couple of things happen here. All the great wars start beating the crap out of each other. Um, a very famous general, Kerensky, um, fucks off, leaves the galaxy to uncharted space. We'll talk about him later. He takes a bunch of technology with him too, a bunch of technology, a bunch of new tech, and just goes. And the galaxy rips itself apart for the next 300, 400 years. It's awful. By the time of the late succession war, by 3019, 3029, all the tech has pretty much just been like gone. All that cool tech we had in the Star League is gone. It's actually called Lost Tech because it's just gone. Then after we get relative peace, the clans invade. Remember Kerensky, who, went away to form his own little empire? He comes back. He's dead, but his predecessors come back and try to basically take over um, the Galactic Empire, known as the Inner Sphere. I should probably use the actual word. So the Inner Sphere is basically the houses, and now you have these clans coming in and essentially trying to take over the Inner Sphere. They fail. Uh, so, okay, thankfully we get peace, right? Nope. Because as the clans, failed in capturing the Inner Sphere, the houses start fighting each other again. Because why not? Um, and then the jihad happens. And the jihad is when the super religious, pseudo religious nutcraces basically start nuking planets. So everyone goes, oh crap, we got to deal with these terrorists. So they begin dealing with the terrorists. Then we go to the other Republic and late Republic, which is 3081 to about 3130, which is small scale conflicts, Pax Romana 2.0. Someone sets off a war again. Then the Dark Age happens, 3131 to 3150. The galactic communication network that they use to go between planets goes dark. So this is basically the dark ages of Battletech. Tech plummets. We're talking about they use construction mechs kind of stuff to battle. And the current era that we are in is the Ill Clan era of 3151, which is, again, I'm not going to go too much into the history, but it is the current era. That was the quickest I think I've been through Battletech lore.
That was reasonably quick because I was worried. It was like a page worth of notes that he had.
No. Again, this was me. I cannot stress this enough. This is me taking the first couple sentences and just and to give you an idea, just to give you a rough estimate of what I mean by the most expansive lore ever. Just the late Succession War Part Two, because there's two sections of the late Succession War. There's Part One and Part Two. Just the late Succession War Part Two has thousands of pages of lore.
Yeah.
Just that. The Dark Ages, which no one likes, by the way, because the Dark Ages was when WizKids took over Battletech for a short time, and they made a really cool game that I liked, Clicky Tech. But that was the Dark Ages, and people didn't really like that. Still tons of books. There's over at least 50 books on just that era. It's insanity.
They treat it like you would if you think about it. When people play, say, historicals, when you usually play them, it's because you like the history, you like the lore. You usually, and some of those are based off the real world, so you kind of have that real world thousands of years kind of history. This is a game that kind of fits that. They've built it themselves, but they have the same sort of thing. I do think at one point you said predecessor instead of successor when you talked about
successor. Sorry, successors. Yes.
Yep, I caught that.
Were the successors of Kerensky.
It's stuck in my brain. But now
apologies.
that's okay. We've cleared that up, so now it's in a better spot.
Yeah,
I will say, like, I play the game. I enjoy the game. I know nothing about the lore. So we're in a variety of Facebook chats. One of our chats is for Battletech, and well, right now there's 100+ messages that I've missed, and usually every several hours there's 100+ messages I've missed, and a bunch of it is lore related. And all of that. So
actually, it was one of the things I literally asked. How did just a little lore tidbit. So essentially, the galaxy is run by a shadowy corporation known as Comstar because they own all the communication networks of the galaxy, right? So if you want to jump from one system to another, or you want to communicate from one system to another, you better pay your damn phone bill or Comstar is going to come for you. It's an old joke that they're Comcast, essentially, right? And I literally asked a question of, all right, if they own all the teleportation, how the hell did the clans invade the inner sphere? And we had to look it up over various books to figure out that they use jump networks of their own.
Do you want to be a historical nerd, but you don't actually want real world history? And you'd rather fighting robots, but you don't want to go alt history? You don't want to do like a Dust 1947 type thing? Hey, Battletech. There you go.
It's literally, you could teach a college course on the early Republic if you wanted to. It's insane. It is absolutely insane.
That will not help anyone.
That would be so
That's
funny.
not part of a good, well-rounded education.
So let's get to the crux of it, why you play Battletech, and that's the rules.
All right. So for anyone who is listening, I realized lately, for the last while, I've been recording by myself, which means I don't have to have all the different inputs going. But now we're actually recording someone else, and I had to actually set a new screen. And when I set the new screen, I didn't put the right input capture, so it was missing part of Dan's audio. So we're re-recording a little bit of this, so I might have to trim little bits or kind of rearrange things a little bit. But where we know we left off, we had went through the lore. That should all be fine, and we're going to start getting back towards the rules. And one thing for anyone who is watching, or at least just listening, we also have some websites we're going to briefly mention that we pull up that we talked about before, but I know that part wasn't recorded. So why don't we do a brief getting into the rules for Classic, as you put it.
All right. So there are two essentially ones. You have Alpha Strike and you have Classic. Classic is your very zoomed in mech simulator, and Alpha Strike is not. So first of all, Classic is balanced through BV. Right? You only have like 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 mechs maximum in a normal game. And what BV is, if Dave pulls up the Atlas 7D that he has,
you'll notice the Atlas 7D, where we can just kind of pull up just to see the basics.
Exactly.
And then we can click in to see the record sheet. We see it's BV right there.
So the record sheet, you'll notice that it's 1897. And you might be saying, that's a very weird number. How did you get that? So what you do is, if you don't have to do this, by the way. You don't have to do this. It's done automatically now. But if you go to Battle Value Breakdown, right, and it's a text file essentially, you can actually see how it's broken down. And the way they do this is not how 40K or how Sigmar does it, where, here's an axe. It should cost the same amongst all factions, right? Which doesn't really work sometimes because factions can provide different values to certain things. That's not how it is in Battletech. As you could see, I don't know if you have the text file open, but
Yeah, I do have it open. Yeah.
the armor standard is 304, but it's got a 2.5 multiplier, but also a 1 times multiplier. If that was endosteel or ferrofibrous or light ferrofibrous or stealth or hardened armor or reflective, you'll see what it has different points and multipliers depending on the tonnage. The internal structure, same exact thing. Gyro, same exact thing. It even has calculations for how much explosive ammunition you have in your own mech. It's a negative modifier. So if your mech is a tinderbox of ammunition to blow, it might actually not cost that much BV because a single crit might just launch your mech into space. And then you can even see the weapons have little multipliers and everything. And it's actually cool. You'll see a little inefficient right there. You see how it says
Yep.
inefficient? That is a different multiplier from the red because what they do is they calculate how much heat you can do. And if any weapons breach the inefficiency level, that's what that is.
Okay. Got it.
So it's actually really cool how it's calculated. That's why you get 1897. You don't have to do any of these calculations, though. This is automatic.
Mm.
But that's what makes Battletech, in my opinion, one of the coolest games to play. I know that if I take a 7,000 battle value army of inner sphere mechs, and let's say I take 4 of them, and you take 2 mechs from the clans, right? It'll be balanced because we're both at 7,000. Sure, my Atlas is 1897. It's 100 tons. Sure, you took a 50-ton clan mech that cost almost double of my Atlas, but that's because it's faster, has better armor, or not has better weapons and longer weapons, right? So it's all calculated like that. So we're playing 6,000 BV. I know that my 6,000 is damn near equivalent to your 6,000.
Yeah. It works better in this than other ones because you are one faction. When you think about a lot of other games, you are through various factions. So a 200-point unit in one army is not a 200-point in another army because they have different rules, different premises. You may have a lot more rules, but I may have more faction rules. I have stratagems. I have whatever else that comes into play for those calculations. It's apples to oranges, where here everything is an apple. So it makes that where they can show you the behind the curtain. Because if they didn't, people could figure it out if they really wanted, because everything is worth the same way.
Yeah. And I also didn't mention this. I know that we're talking about how the recording the of my voice, but what's also interesting about this is you can adjust the piloting and gunnery of your mech as well, which will also adjust the BV value. So if you want to hit a little bit better, your BV value will spike up. If you want to pilot your mech better to prevent it from falling down, your BV value will spike up. So sure, an Atlas starts at 1897, but if I want a gunner, and to give you an idea, 1897 is for a gunnery of 4 and a piloting of 5. That's the base for every mech, right? That's just base period. But if I want to make gunnery 2 and piloting 3, his BV value is going to spike to like 3,000.
Yeah.
Right? So again, that's how BV value is adjusted. So let's talk a little bit about how Classic is played. Like I said before, it's a mech simulator. It's easy to learn, and it's mostly due because they give you now a starter sheet or a cheat sheet in the boxes now. It's easy to learn, but the rules are very deep.
Oh, yes.
Let me give you a good example. Essentially, in a game, let me just pick this up. So in a starter set, you'll get something like this. Here's like a record sheet. You'll notice, by the way, heat is missing because this is a beginner sheet, but there'll usually be heat over here or whatever. So here's a beginner sheet. You have your weapons, how much ammo, the structure, the bubbles you fill in, so on and so forth, right? And then you have your heat. A basic game is you move, you figure out what you want to fire, take out ammo, take out heat, see if you hit, mark damage, move on to next turn. Very easy. The thing is, though, it is a mech simulator, so they will have rules if you want. They will have rules for jumping off a 2-story building, landing on someone. They will have rules for jumping on top of a helicopter. They will have rules for underwater combat, breaching your armor and flooding your systems. They will have rules for, just to give you an idea, I didn't mention it. There's a Mech Warrior RPG, or there's a Battletech RPG that you can play, right? They have the cost of underwear. That's the level of depth you can go to play this game. I know Dave was mentioning before, I'm not sure where the
Yeah.
recording, that there are rules for determining weapon location. So if my
Yeah.
missiles are firing lower on the body, right, it might be harder for me to hit a target rather than my missiles firing from the shoulders.
Yeah. That's a level we don't
Yeah, we
use,
don't do that. I
but
don't think anyone
you
does.
can go to the absolute nitty gritty of all of this if you wish. You can
I
decide what level of crunch you want this to have, but no matter what, even the minimum, still pretty crunchy.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of where I was going to go to before we had to restart a little bit.
Yeah,
It kind of reminds me of Eve.
I can see that.
Eve, yeah, Eve is a very easy game to get into. You have your ship, you mine a little bit, whatever. But then,
Then the spreadsheets.
then the spreadsheets start coming, and that's what this game is. You can play it at a surface level. You can start going deeper and deeper. You could stop them. It's not that you have to go deep. There isn't like, how 40K is you need all the rules or you kind of don't play the full game.
Yeah,
This is
well,
kind
except
of
for
not.
their what is not spearhead, whatever
Oh,
they call it.
yeah, I know what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
there's
This is
that.
like, do I need rules to play on an airless vacuum moon? Actually, I was just looking at this too. I was while we were restarting, I was looking at this in the book right there. Do I need rules to play on an airless vacuum moon with meteors that are 20 tons, flying in no atmosphere, and a double sun system?
Yes, the answer is yes. I need all
The
that.
answer is yes.
No.
But do I need to? No. But that's what I like about this game. If you want to literally have the crunchiest game imaginable, you can.
Yeah, the
If you want
only
to,
thing probably crunchier than that is I don't know the
oh,
Battle
there
for
is
North
one.
Africa.
No, 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 no. I used to play it too. It was a space game. Ah,
No,
and you could calculate gravitational pulls.
uh,
Was it Starfleet? No. Oh, I don't. If Franco listens to this, he would like yell at me because we used to play
he
this
would yell
game.
at you anyway.
He would yell at me, "Who's in Starfleet?" It's gonna drive me up the wall now. I know someone on YouTube is probably gonna also type it. You used to be able to calculate gravitational pulls, and it was insane. It made Battletech look easy.
Yeah, no, oh sorry, the campaign for North Africa. My apologies, not the Battle for North Africa. The
Oh,
the campaign for North Africa takes 1,500 hours to play
oh my god,
the game itself. So
my god, Lord have mercy.
yes,
So, yeah, that's your classic. Now, the good thing about classic is you don't need a lot of mechs. Like I know Dave mentioned this before, you need
2 to 4.
2 to 4.
Yeah,
2 to 4. And 4 is even pushing it, but I should want to point out 4 is pushing it.
for
Four,
wait, your BV, the battle value you're coming at, obviously does determine to an extent
yeah,
how long your game will play. But what probably determines it more is how many mechs you're bringing. If you're both playing clan and you want to play a bit bigger, so you both have like 3 mechs, okay. Or if you're playing a
3
lower
mechs a
points,
clan
but you
is
guys are,
at minimum
huh?
7,000. At minimum, 3 clan mechs is going to be 7,000 BV.
Yeah, I'm just saying like, or if
Yeah.
you're playing Inner Sphere, you could play smaller BV, have more mechs, and that's
Yeah.
if you're both doing that, it's just going to be a longer game. So you kind of
Yes.
it's there's 2 facets to that. Every mech is going to add like 30 minutes minimum to the playtime.
Yes. But the cool thing is that Classic is much more focused on maintaining the small squad MX. It also gives you it gives you a weird personal feel to it, right? Like, we'll talk about Alpha Strike later, but like I care about the one mech on the battlefield getting hit on the arm and critting his large laser,
Yeah,
I kind of get upset at that because it's like, damn it, I needed his left arm large laser to fire this. You know what I mean?
yeah,
There's almost a kind of personal love of the mech that you're fielding. And of course, there's also that's just personal feeling. There's also a focus on ammo consumption, heat gauge, targeting, critical slots, so on and so forth.
yeah. Just
Um,
explain a little bit of that
yeah,
before we go.
go ahead, go ahead.
Well, it depends on what you're. Were you going into? Were you going to discuss like the more of how it breaks down initiative stuff like that?
Yeah, that's what
Okay, yeah.
that's the
No,
next
so go
part.
ahead and
Yeah,
do
yeah.
that then, because
So
that'll
yeah,
get
so
into
no,
what I want
so
to say.
essentially the grain breaks down very simply, right? At the base level. So essentially you roll initiative. It's 2d6. The whole game, by the way, is 2d6.
Yes.
We use multiple 2d6s to help with multiple colors, but you can actually just literally use a single 2d6 pair. That's it. So you roll initiative. Whoever loses the initiative has to move his mechs first because that makes sense. You lost initiative. I want to see where your mechs are going. So everyone moves a certain value. So
Yep.
you still have that record sheet up?
Yep. Yeah, that's what I'm displaying right now.
So I should have just kept. Oh, I have the stupid flex sheets. Perfect. Oh no, I don't. Damn it! Let me pull up the. Let me build the record sheet one more time. So an Atlas moves 3-5,
Yep.
right? So it can move 3 hexes walking or 5 hexes running. And by the way, a turn does count as a move. So
Things like going through trees, going uphill, all those
yeah, going
kind of
up hills.
extras too.
So here we have a hex. 1, 2, 3. Or 1, turn, 2, 3. Stuff like that. It's actually very intuitive. Turning cost, going through terrain cost, but you have 3 hexes or 5. Done, easy. That's a movement, right? So, and it's alternating. The whole game is alternating. It's I go, you go. I'm sorry, that was the wrong way to say it. Apologies. It's I move a mech, you move a mech, I move a mech, you move a mech, so on and so forth. So it's not like, oh, I move my entire mechs. Oh, I fire everything. Oh, I resolve everything. Okay, your turn. Kind of like 40K, Sigmar, not even Conquest. Conquest is alternating too.
Yeah.
So this is alternating activation. This is, I move a mech, then it's your turn.
Yep.
It's very quick.
The other part I was saying there is what another thing they do in this game to help out with that sort of piece if we are unbalanced in mech amount.
Yes.
Because we might be unbalanced either because of things that happen in the game or because I just came with a lot more mechs than you, is that then you might go 2-1. So I might have to move 2 to your 1. There's rules of how it works the way it does. But they do compensate for the fact that if I have a lot, I can't really delay because I'm going to be required to move more.
Yeah, you can't out-activate someone. So for example, if you have 2 mechs and I have 4 and I lose initiative, I have to move 2 mechs because I double outnumber you.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of cool. So that's movement. And it's also very important because, I may move a mech, and if you want initiative, you may have the movement to get behind me. Ooh, back shots.
Yeah.
So then there's shooting. Shooting is I know I wrote this weird, so bear with me. Shooting is alternating and also simultaneous.
You declare alternating. Yes. You fire all shots simultaneously.
Exactly. So again, in this example, I lost initiative. So I would declare my weapons from one mech, then Dave would, then I would, then Dave would. So we declare all our weapons because we don't know what's going to happen, right? We don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if I'm going to lose my mech. I don't know if I'm going to lose my side torso. And then shooting happens simultaneous, which I really, really love. There's a reason this game hits like number 1 on my spot every time I play. Simultaneous shooting, I absolutely enjoy. You cannot alpha strike someone. And funny enough, alpha strike, you also can't alpha strike someone. We'll talk about that later. It's called alpha strike, but for a different reason. But you can't alpha strike someone. I can take all 4 of my mechs and kill your mech dead. Your mech is still going to fire its weapons at whatever you declared. I love that. I cannot stress enough how good that feels. I've always hated the fact that I set up this beautifully painted mech on the battle, or a beautifully painted squad on the battlefield, and turn 1, they get blown off the battlefield.
Yep.
Along with almost all of my army. It feels shitty. It feels shitty. There's no better way to put that. My eyes are down as I'm saying. It feels shitty. It's happened to me before. It doesn't feel good. Dave can probably expand on that, but that's just.
Oh yeah, no. Tell him about the time that Richard shot you right through the head and took you out.
That was
first shot of the game.
Different.
That wasn't.
That required a double 12.
Yep.
Into a double 6 into a double 6 roll.
Yeah.
Which was what chance is that, Mr. Math teacher?
Well, so double 6 is essentially 1 in 36, and then you need it again. It would be the product of that, so 1 over 36 squared. Which at that case, you're looking at 1 in what, 1200 and something?
36, 1296.
1296.
Jesus. So that happened the first time. Did I feel salty about it? Yes. But do I still talk about that game? Do I still use that? Like, here's the difference. I can talk about that game, be salty about it, but still also be happy that it happened. Like the time that John shot my hunchback with a small laser. It crit into my left torso. And the only thing in his left torso is ammo. And so he lit up like a Christmas tree and died.
Yep.
It sucked, but I laughed, right? Because the chances of that happening are so rare. Versus, I can tell you how many times I might I played a game at a tournament, or not even at a tournament. Let's ignore tournaments for a second. Where I played like in the store, and like I have like my 2 custodians guard squads, and they just get decimated. And I'm like, oh, okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a difference. And like I said before, you use a 2d6. Yeah. And that's about the basis of the game. Sorry. So like if you look at the what you call it, if you look at the Atlas record sheet, right, you'll
Yep.
notice that each weapon has a location. So this is where it's based on the mech. It has a damage. That's how many pips you do on the mech. So if you're looking at the medium laser, 5 damage, and there's 2 of them. So if you hit with both, that's 10 damage. Hey, look at that. You could see how many hexes are the ranges, 3, 6, 9, right? Each one of those provides a modifier. So you're always rolling 2d6, right? And I said your base gunnery is always 4, piloting is always 5. What that means is you always need a 4 higher to hit, but there's modifiers. So let's say your Atlas walked. You get a +1 modifier. So now you need a 5 up to hit. Okay, a little bit harder, but still easy on 2d6, right? Let's say you're 6 hexes away. That's medium range. And by the way, each hex, I should also point out, people get this confused. Each hex isn't actually the mech size. This is kind of an abstraction. Each hex is, I think, 100 meters.
There's something in it. Yeah, your mech doesn't actually take up a full hex.
6 hexes isn't, like 6 feet. 6 hexes is like 500 meters away, right? And you're walking. So medium, you're going to add another +2 to that. So now you get 7 on 2d6 to hit. Oh, okay, 50-50. But let's say the other mech walked a couple hexes. He's got a +2 to hit because of how far he walked. Now you need 9s to hit.
Yeah.
So that's essentially how it breaks down. It's not like gunnery 4 doesn't mean, oh, I'm hitting on 4s. It means, hey, that's my base, and I add modifiers to that.
Yeah. It's in this game, again, if you get things into good ranges and all, but otherwise, yeah, you're usually starting at a low number, and when it's all said and done, you're looking at 7, 8, 9s and stuff like that's what you need for a lot of things. If there's too much forest in the way, you can't see them. Yeah, stuff like that. So this is definitely a game about modifiers, about that sort of level. Same thing as when you take damage. I roll 2d6 to figure out where, and my facing matters. If you are hitting on my left side, there's a chart related to if you're on my left side opposed to my front compared to my right side, back, things like that.
Actually, do you have flex sheets open? Flex sheets, another. I know we didn't talk about. I know this. The websites. If you go to flex sheets and you open up like the Atlas, it'll tell you. If you zoom in, it has that chart right there.
I'm taking some of the damage off. If I zoom in, where?
To the middle, right under where it says pilot. You see where it says left, front, right? That's the breakdown.
Oh, okay, yeah, there's the chart right there.
So rolling a 7 on 2d6 in the front hits the center torso. But if I'm on the left side, it hits the left torso. Yep. Or if I'm on the right side, it hits the right torso. So on and so forth.
Yep, it's the chart right there. People have outside armor. If you get through the outside armor of a spot, then you start going to the internals. That's when you start getting crits. That's when you might start blowing up their stuff. Or, like I said, if you hit ammo, you can absolutely essentially just explode someone.
If you're hitting ammo, you're pretty much. So for those who don't know, just real quick, this is specific rule, but just for funsies.
Yeah.
Ammo is the ammo multiplied by the damage. So, for example, he has 5 rounds of autocannon 20 in the right torso.
He's got 5
if I hit that is 100 damage internal if I hit that bin. So, if you do the calculations, that's the right torso. He has 21 internal and 31 center internal for a total of 52. Meaning, I kill the mech and another mech.
Yep. Yeah.
Hitting bins of ammo not good.
Things that take you down. You lose your pilot. Pilot's usually in the head or whatever counts as the head. They put a head sort of thing on these.
Yeah.
Lose him, you're down. You lose, what is it?
Engines.
Yeah, you lose your engines.
3 engine hits. Or the center torso, yeah.
Or you lose, how many gyros does he have to lose?
I think 2.
2 gyros?
2. Yep, 2 gyros, which is your spine, essentially your waist spine.
Yeah.
Sensor hits or life support. If someone crits your head and hits your life support, you're dead. That's he hit your pilot, essentially.
Yeah.
Which is this is what Dave was talking about before with like the game where I got one shot off the table. There are games where mechs will literally just not die. They will sit there forever and tank everything.
Yeah.
And there are other games where go ahead.
They talk about the Atlas. Its armor factor's 3 or 4. So there's 304 spots of damage you could do. If you roll perfect, that won't actually do anything to it because it doesn't hit anything internal. Doesn't crit it, doesn't remove limbs or anything like that. So I've watched games where someone just rolls the correct way and they have to do like 260 points of damage before they touch the inside at all.
Just to give you an idea, on the Atlas, you can crit the entire left arm. You can blow off the right arm. You can blow off the left torso, the right torso. And let's leave the legs alone for now. and you have your head, center, torso, and 2 legs, you're still functional. You can walk up to someone and kick them for what, 20 damage?
Yes.
Let me see, it says it here. Yeah, 20 points of
Yeah.
damage to another person's
It's
leg.
1/5 of your weight.
Yeah. So that Atlas is walking around with no goddamn limbs except legs, and if he gets up to you, he will literally Spartan kick your mech into the next hat. Like,
And 20 damage is about the heaviest damage you're going to see anything do in one
Yes.
swing. So he can kick you with the best damage that you're going to do.
Yep. So that's the cool part of it. And then you have like other mechs that are lighter than this, obviously. We use the Atlas because it's the poster child. It's 100 tons. Everyone knows it. But that's essentially what the 2d6 is for. That's what it comes down to. But that's basically the game. There's really not much more than that. Obviously, there's like more depth to it. Like, what if I'm sprinting? What if I'm doing this? But other than that, that's your base of the game. Once you have that cheat sheet in front of you, and I say, all right, I hit you with a medium laser. I rolled a 7 on your front that hits your center torso for 5 damage. It goes kind of quick. But yeah, that's essentially the game. So the pros of Classic, the pros of Classic is like you have your personal feel of the mechs. It actually feels like a mech simulator.
It is
right?
a mech simulator.
And yeah, it is a mech. Is there another mech simulator on the market now?
Not that there probably is, but not that I can think of personally.
Gamma Wolves? No, Gamma Wolves is like Alpha Strike. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, Gamma Wolves is more Alpha Strike.
So I can say that there's really nothing out on the market like classic Battletech. It's most of those games have gone like 40K, Sigmar. Nothing really exists like Battletech anymore, which is nice because it's kind of in a unique, no one touches this market anymore. Rules haven't changed, so you don't need to buy editions. I cannot stress enough how nice it is to have picked up a couple of years ago Battletech, like 10 years ago Battletech, and have like a 10-year break and the rules be exactly the same.
Yes.
I don't think was a nicer feeling than that. But and you can be used with hexes or without, but use
hexes.
Use hexes, please, dear God. The cons. This can take a while.
No, it takes a while.
Yeah,
Not 10. Okay, here's how it doesn't take a while.
Yeah.
You get that lucky shot and you crit them right off the bat and they're down. Otherwise, this is a long game.
This is a long game. The other con with this is Battletech does have rules for tanks, VTOLs, aircraft, aerospace, and infantry, and battle armor. But, and this is the part with the complication, it can get complicated. Combined arms in Classic can be a bit of an oofed problem. Which is fine. If you want to play tanks and battle armor, VTOLs, or infantry in Battletech Classic, you can. There are rules for it. But just realize that you're adding almost an entire other section of rules into the game, right?
Yeah.
We'll talk about this. Yeah. So that's essentially your pros and cons. Now, the other half of Battletech is Alpha Strike. Now, I'm going to preface this by saying Alpha Strike, and this is a little bit of my bias, so bear with me. Alpha Strike used to get a very bad, it still kind of does, a bad rep in the Battletech community because when it first came out, it was very much like when Sigmar first came out. I don't know if Dave remembers that shit.
I remember it. I remember playing it the night the rules released. I played.
God, yeah. And it was a mess. There's no nice way to. Alpha Strike, when it first released, was. I have Alpha Strike cards. They're right here. Alpha Strike cards are like this. You'll notice it's very simplified. You have your armor in the front in white, structure in the red, and then you have these damage numbers 3, 4, and 2. And it was at the beginning, it was very simple. I roll 2d6, I apply 4 damage to your mech. Done. And this kind of was it's very simple and dumb because sometimes you'll have a mech with like 3 hit points and it's just gone. Yeah. And it's not fun to play. However, this is what I was going to say before. They did redo the rules where they took the 3 rule books that Alpha Strike had, combined it into one, took out some stuff, rechanged some stuff. And I believe that Alpha Strike is an extremely strong game to play. I've played it before. I enjoyed it very much. Let's talk about it. So Alpha Strike is a zoomed out version of Classic. This is, if you ever played the video game Battletech by Herbarian Studios, this is that. You are now essentially playing that version where you're taking control of Lance or Lance's 4 mechs, of mechs. And instead of like individual mech maintenance, you are instead maintaining the Lance or the pilot. So, for example, let's say I'm building, let me move this. down real quick. Let's say I'm building a lance, and these are my
Keep in
four
mind, there's also
mechs.
people who don't watch the video
No,
form of this.
oh, okay. So I just
Yeah.
put four mechs out in front of the camera, right?
Yeah.
So here are my battle mechs that I'm using, right? This consists of these mechs. Because I chose these mechs in this formation, it will unlock certain rules, right? Special, they're called special pilot abilities. The way I explain this is, was this sixth edition 40K when you had like formations and unlocked rules with formations? Is that sixth
I
edition?
think that I
Was it
think that was actually
seventh?
seventh, I believe.
I can't remember for the life of me what that was. But essentially, for example, building this little lance of mechs, this four mechs, will unlock lucky. So now what that means is this lance, only this lance, not the other ones, this lance gets to re-roll six of its dice during the game. Once I use those, that's it. Right?
Mhm.
Or I could sub out, these big, heavy, stompy mechs for some lighter, smaller mechs. And I have four very tiny light mechs. Now they get +4 to their movement, which is very big. So what you're doing is instead of BVing the mechs, you're buying squads of mechs and then either purchasing them special pilot abilities, which you can do for points, or it's unlocking pilot abilities for your lance, right? So it's more of a zoomed out lance formation thing. The game can be quicker, it can drag on, but the game is absolutely quicker depending on what you are doing with dice rolling. Let me give you an example. The normal rules say 2d6, apply the damage to the mech, which can be boring. What most people do is that, let's see here, I have an Orion in front of me, right? Oh man, that's really dark. Jesus Christ. I have an Orion in front of me, right? And you can see that it does 4 damage in medium range. How most people play the game is they take four 2d6, right? Of different colors. So one red, one blue, one black, one yellow. And they'll roll it and they'll see how many of them hit. And if two of four of them hit, then you apply 2 damage. So instead of applying the chunk of damage, which can one-shot mechs, it gives you more variance, which most people tend to play Alpha Strike do that version, which is nicer in my opinion. Um, you are still alternating. You're still alternating. So you're not going I go, you go. It's still alternating. Shots still happen simultaneously. So you're still doing that. That's really it for Alpha Strike. Alpha Strike can be played on hexes, but this one is mostly played on hexless.
Yeah.
If you notice, there's no hexes on the card. It says he moves 8 inches. So it's inches, it's not hexes. So this is actually played more on hexless boards. So the boards will be more freer and open for you to play on. Um, and so like pros of this, games tend to be quicker. You get variation on mechs based on your SPA rather than like, oh, he's got one heat sink versus one laser. Combined arms is a lot easier in Alpha Strike by
Mhm.
a metric long shot. Um, I can add tanks, infantry, VTOLs, aerospace, and artillery support and minefields if I wanted to easily. And it really wouldn't add that much more time to the game.
Mhm.
It actually is not that bad to do combined arms in Alpha Strike, which is nice because I know the new Kickstarter has a bunch of tanks and
Yes,
VTOLs.
it
So
does.
there we go. So that Alpha Strike might be getting more popular. So we'll see. Strategic assets or the artillery, minefields, that gets added to the game, adds coolness to the game, and it's a lot easier than classic. And again, can be used with hexes or without, but most people do without. The cons. This is a dulled down, simpler game. Classic is its own bracket. This is more of like 40K if you wanted to kind of compare it. Not in game, but like classic is your mech sim. This is the 40K of that mech sim,
Yeah.
essentially. And you kind of lose personality with the mechs. Instead of like, oh no, my Orion lost his small laser on his head. Damn it. It's more like, oh, I just lost the entire Orion of that lance. So you lose kind of the personality with certain mechs with this game. But again, it's more of a zoomed out. You're playing a war, not playing like a small skirmish. And that's basically the game. I don't know if Dave wants to add anything to that one, but
I was trying to think of other mech games that took me those. Remember Heavy Gear. That's another one that we
Heavy
play.
Gears, is that a mech simulator? That's
Um,
I think Heavy Gears is more like Alpha Strike.
it's a little bit between both. I would say
Yeah.
it's probably a little bit. It looks more like Alpha Strike, but it has enough variation. But I would put it somewhere in between. But
Somewhere in between.
What else? Honestly, I haven't played Alpha Strike. The main game, yeah.
I
When we get to some thoughts in a moment on that, I'll talk about that. But Alpha Strike, I've never actually played.
I do like it. I played it with Brian. I played it in other stores. Honestly, I do like Alpha Strike a lot,
Yeah.
especially when you can get like 12 mechs out on the battlefield.
See,
Normally, you can't
that's
do
what
that.
I think I might like about it is just the fact that I'm just gonna have more mechs because it's the type of game where you're gonna have more
and
mechs.
tanks and VTOLs. I had someone. Someone played Alpha Strike. I was watching. They didn't bring a single goddamn mech. He brought literally tanks and VTOLs. Funniest shit I've ever seen in my entire life. Because tanks can get crit in the treads and go immobile. So just littered battlefield of tank immobile tanks trying their best to shoot down mechs. Oh man, and that shit was hilarious. But no, that it does combined arms a lot easier. Infantry are much easier to play in that game. All right, other reasons you play BattleTech. That's the game. That's essentially the rules why you play BattleTech.
Yeah.
I want to point out another reason you play BattleTech, and this is going to be very quick. The resources. I actually, do we have to re-record the
About
websites? Because I can mention the websites now again.
Mention the websites now because I know that's something that didn't get picked up.
Perfect. So this was the thing that kind of got cut before, but let's talk about this. So let's talk about the resources. First of all, BattleTech has a vast amount of free resources, and I'm not actually joking. The amount of websites that you can use to help you play BattleTech is, so let's give you an idea. You have Sarna, right? This is number one website pretty much everyone should know. Sarna is your wiki of BattleTech. End of discussion. There's really like no other way to explain this, I guess. It's literally a wiki. If you don't know what a wiki is,
Go ahead, explain it. You challenge yourself to explain that, so you go ahead.
A wiki is something that anyone can edit. It has 53,000 articles. It's a encyclopedia, online encyclopedia of the subject you are researching.
Your keyboard's very quiet as you type to look up wiki.
Yeah.
Very nice. Did you look up a wiki to talk about?
No, I was reading off the main page.
Okay. One of that.
I was reading off the main page. Oh man. It's essentially an encyclopedia of BattleTech. You want to figure out the lore? Go to the Sarna. You want to figure out the battle mechs? Go to Sarna. You want to figure out what planet had this stupid thing? Go to the Sarna. It's the literal. Yeah. All right. The second website is Mordell or Mordell.net, I should say. Mordell.net. So I know Dave pulled up the record sheet before, but essentially this is where you can pull up record sheets, right? For free. So let's say I want to use an Atlas 7D. I go to generate record sheet, click download, boom, you got yourself an Atlas 7D record sheet that you can print out and mark up and throw away when it's dead, so on and so forth, whoever. Right? You want to take another map? Boom, print out the record sheet. You're good to go. This is the perfect site for free record sheets. Right? Also, I didn't mention this about Mordell. You have Mordell open?
Yes.
You can go to Force Man. I don't know if you have an account or anything.
I do, but not on this particular browser.
Okay. So you can go to Force Management. I'll just go to search. You can go to search or My Forces, but you don't have an account. And you can actually make a force. So you can actually make a force of certain units and then make it a certain battle value, make it a certain tonnage, make it a certain cost in C-bills.
Yeah, I can see that.
Right? So you can actually make yourself an actual force. Yeah, and honestly, it's kind of it. Oh, here. Go to page 4. Go to page 4.
Of forces?
Yeah. When you go to force search.
Yep, I'm on
See where it says Donegal Guard Assault? I don't know what that is.
The one at the top,
click on it. Let's see what it is. Oh, perfect. Donegal Guard Assault. Look at this dude. This guy has a force. It's 5,421 battle value. So it's good for a 5,500 point game. He's got 2 Stalkers, a Thunderbolt, and a Wolverine. And look, he even he actually worsened. So remember how I said 4-5 is the normal piloting gunnery? Apparently Jesse Wolf, what do you call him? Jesse
Wolfson.
Sucks at gunnery because it's gunnery.
5-5, yeah.
Oh god,
that's what that is. Yeah, because he did a skill adjustment, so it costs 90%. It's 90% of the normal cost, so it's 10% cheaper by going down.
Jeez. Oh yeah. Oh my God. You could click the eye and it tells you.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. I didn't even know that. That's
Yep.
hilarious. Boom. So stuff like that, cool, gives you a good idea. So that's Mordell. Mordell is a master unit list. Master unit list is a double source of goodness. Oh God, it's gonna take forever to load. Hopefully you still
That's all
have
right.
it.
Yeah, I didn't close it down.
Thank God. So master unit list, you could I guess you could open in a new tab as I talk about it. So
Yeah.
this is where you get your Alpha Strike cards. So you can actually, it says forces on the top, and if you click on forces, it says Alpha Strike Builder. Boom, you can put in mechs, print out your Alpha Strike cards, done. But the other big thing is if you want to play a little bit more fluffier and you want to play more faction play, if you click on factions, right?
Yep.
Which hopefully you did in a new tab.
Yeah, I did.
These are all the factions you can play. There's a lot in the history of Battletech. Some of them don't even exist anymore. Like my poor Ice Hellions. Oh, God damn it. It makes me cry every time. So anyway, if he clicks on Capellan Confederation, right? And he clicks on Jihad, which is the timeline, let's say we want to play, and he has that open right there.
Yep.
That gives you, how many battle mechs was it?
567.
Jesus Christ. And you'll notice that like as he scrolls down, there's how many locust variants? It was like 14 locust variants, something nonsense.
In this one particular spot for the LCTs,
6, 7,
there's
8,
like 10.
10.
But you
10
might have
locust
some other spots. But yeah,
variants.
that's the other thing for people to notice. When you get models for this, you don't have to. I never worry about what the model looks like in terms of what's armed
see, I
with.
do.
Call it whatever I want. But if you're starting out, don't worry about it. Dan goes crazy.
Yeah, don't worry about the
that
variants.
stuff.
Yeah.
But
you can call
there is a lot of variants of different things. And most of the
Yes.
variant differences are like weapon choices and stuff like that.
Yes. Some are big variant changes, some are tiny variant changes. But yeah, no, so yeah, that's how you figure out what mechs you can choose. Again, there's what, 500 you said? Something 567 mechs to choose.
567 mechs.
Jesus Christ. So yeah, gives you a good idea of what you can choose from. And that's master unit list. Then you have yes, flex. Oh, you also have camo specs online. I didn't put that in my notes, but camo specs online is also how you can get paint schemes and stuff. It's actually really like if you ever want to like correctly paint the Capellan Confederation, it's got one. Oh my Jesus Christ. Oh my. Actually, Dave, do you want to go to that really quick? Because it's actually funny. Like
give me 1 second. I'll pop that
go to
off.
factions.
What am I going to? What am I going to?
Go to master unit list factions.
Okay.
Right?
Okay, I can show this again then. Master unit list, factions.
Capellan Confederation.
Yep.
And then there's a little thing that says look at camo specs, right? Or
click here to see official camo specs.
Scroll down. I did not realize that.
Oh, so if I click on like third cyan dragoons, it's going to show me what they look like.
Yep.
Okay.
Now you can paint anything you want in Battletech. No one, again, this isn't like, oh my God, your Ultramarines aren't painted like Ultramarines. Oh no. But gives you good references, honestly. It's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, so they tell you about it. They don't all have pictures. Some have pictures entered in. But they do tell you about it at least.
Nice. I think that's pretty cool. All right. Last but not least, probably my favorite. This is a newer app too. I didn't realize how new this was until I played it. My favorite newer app is Flex Sheets. So Flex Sheets, I'll open up a new. So I'm gonna do it with you. Flex Sheets, when you open it up, is going to say Flex Sheets find mech, right? So you type in the mech you want. In this case, let's do the Atlas 7D.
Yep.
Poster child mech. Boom, and it's going to pop up this record sheet, right? Which looks very common to the record sheet you use. And this is essentially a digital version of the record sheet. So you can actually change the gunnery skill on the pilot by clicking the 4 or the 5. You can do head hit. You can damage your pilot by clicking 3, 5, 7, 10. We click on X. Oh yeah, click on X. Gives you a nice big what does it say for you? Abandoned?
Yes.
You dead. Your mech's abandoned. You can see this little chart under pilots that gives you the cheat sheet of where you're being hit with the dice. There's your punch table. You can click on the mech and apply damage. So if I want to apply 10 damage to the center torso, I click on the center torso. Scroll down to 10. Boom, look at that. It's beautiful. If I want to apply internal damage, I go to the internal part of it. Apply 10. Look at that. Beautiful. If I want to crit my where the hell's crit my this is actually pretty cool. I figured out much later. If I want to crit my gyro, so crit the gyro real quick. It doesn't matter which one.
Did.
Notice on the top now it says PSR 1 times 8 plus. That means now your piloting skill check has to be done whenever you run and on an 8 plus or you fall down,
Yeah. You're down a gyro.
right? I wonder what happens if you crit the jar. And if you crit the jar twice, it's
Yeah,
it's
abandoned,
just
right? Yeah.
bad. It actually gives you an exclamation point. And no, actually, you're still alive. Your mech is still great. You can't prop yourself up. You can't rotate your waist. You can't shoot anything. The reason it doesn't kill your mech is because if you're a quad mech, if you have 4 legs, right? And your mech has a turret on the top, it could still fire.
Ah.
But most mechs, like 99% of mechs, have their weapons on the body or the arms. And so once you fall down, you literally cannot turn. You're paralyzed. You cannot turn to shoot your weapons. So essentially at that point, you're abandoned. Um, but yeah, super cool stuff, man. Like this is I just figured this out a couple years ago, honestly. And oh god, it's just this saves me so much time. I will tell you it doesn't work on a phone. Or it does, but it's
It does. It's a little bit rougher. You can make it work. The big
yeah.
thing is, much like if people are watching, mouse dragging around.
Yeah.
It's a little bit rough to drag it around on the phone, is what I find is the issue.
Yeah. And zooming in sometimes gets a pain in the butt. But if you have an iPad, this
Yeah.
works perfectly, in my opinion. But that's Flex Sheets. Definitely check it out if you play BattleTech. If you don't like the pencil and paper, this just use this. We're in a digital age. Just use an iPad and use this. It's got every mech available. Elite. And that's kind of my pitch to play BattleTech. That's kind of everything why you play BattleTech. And again, kind of before I get to the why not play, before I get to that,
Mhm.
it is my top game. I've said this before. If people
Yes.
listen to the podcast before, I've said that BattleTech is my number one by long margin.
Yeah, you have
My
said
number
that.
2 spot changes sometimes. My number 3 spot changes. It's always kind of the same. But my number 1 spot has always been BattleTech, whether it's the RPG, the classic, or Alpha Strike. And Alpha Strike is new because before the rules kind of sucked. Now it's actually great.
Mm.
And it's because I can talk about the time I played Heresy and I broke off my custodian shield captain to fight Grady's Praetor on top of a building, right? But that was an event. We both had to agree to it, and it was just fun, right?
Mhm.
That was manufactured. Does that make sense? Like we had to both decide it in the middle of an event. BattleTech just has those moments where it's just goofy sometimes, right? Like skidding on a piece of pavement off the hex map and your mech is gone. Or kicking someone, missing the kick, falling down yourself,
Mhm.
or getting shot across the map on a 1 in 1,200 chance shot. It still makes me so angry. And it was a freshly painted Battlemaster. I
Yeah,
was
it was.
so mad. And I figured out what he used, by the way. You know why I know how I know what he used?
Why?
Because they're redesigning the mech.
Ah,
For
okay.
those who don't know, it is one of the ugliest mechs. Oh my god, now I gotta remember the name. Damn it. Hawk? No,
Yeah, I
I forgot
don't
the name
know
of
the
the
names
mech.
of the mechs.
I forgot what it was. It was an ugly mech, but they're redesigning it. It looks fantastic now. Um, but yeah, no, uh, it doesn't have these manufactured moments of greatness. It just is a great game to play. Right? I can sit down at my dining room table. I was doing this yesterday because I wanted to see how my campaign mechs would do against the other campaign mechs. I just sat down at the living room table, opened up one battle mat, because that's all you really need, a living room table, and played. Just played against myself. It's actually not that hard because the game is so dice based, so chart based that my Thunderbolt, for example, I wanted to jump behind the vulture, right? And the vulture was stuck between a rock and a hard face. So he was going to jump behind the vulture, but he failed his piloting check and fell down. You can't like plan that. You know what I mean? There's a
Yeah.
certain unplannable thing to BattleTech, and I don't know, it just kind of makes it fun sometimes. Um, and there are so many fun stories I have with playing this damn game that and like I look back at 40K and it's a fun game, don't get me wrong, but I'm not gonna go out of my way to play it. 30K is hella fun. I love it, but I'm gonna play it during events. You know, Titanic is the same thing. I'll play it during events. Conquest. I love Conquest. Won't say anything bad about Conquest. I will actively look for a Conquest game.
Yeah.
Because I do love that game. But look at the comparison. Both Conquest and BattleTech, both alternate activations, right?
Yeah.
Both have kind of balanced pretty much pretty balanced, and or at least Conquest is constantly being balanced, but never major changes or
Yeah.
codex changes, right?
Mm.
Neither does BattleTech. The lore is pretty damn cool in both, if you care
Yes.
about that stuff. And the game is just pretty solid. It's a fun game. So like I just it's a number one game for me for multiple reasons. And hopefully I when if you pick it up, I'll talk about that at the end, like how you start this game. I didn't put that as a category in my notes.
Yeah, it's
I
fine. Yeah,
should
it'll
have,
be
but
fast.
that'll be the last thing.
Get a
So
box.
why don't you play? Dave kind of had to help me with this one.
Yeah, well, and I understand why.
Yes.
This is essentially this is the game you started with. So even if it wasn't that great of a game, I'm not saying it's not. I do
Yeah.
enjoy it, and I might be able to put a little bit more into the why nots because it's not the thing I grew up with. But when it's the thing you grow up with, it's kind of a bit of your darling. So you're not going to necessarily see the things that might actually be more problematic, especially when we consider what we might call more current game design. So if we were actually discussing this Monday night, we were talking about hex and cardboard games. And a lot of hex and cardboard games came out of the 80s, and then there's some current ones. And like old hex and cardboard games are mostly garbage. But when you play the current ones, because game design, game theory, all that has advanced, and it's advanced quite a bit. This is a game that has, for all intents and purposes, has not advanced, but they put themselves in a very good spot that if you like what the game does, they give you all the levels to be able to do it to whatever level that you want, to whatever
Exactly.
complications or ease you want, and they give you a nice sort of completed package. I like overall, Alpha, if you're looking for an improvement on the system, the improvement someone could potentially see is Alpha Strike, because maybe their goal is less finicky, more models, and that does that. But otherwise, there's nothing in the system to me that if you want to see to have the same what you would call the bones of it, that you could really do anything different. For better or worse,
Yeah.
So okay,
It
why
is what
might
it is,
someone
and it hasn't changed.
yeah, why
Yeah.
would someone
So
not play the game?
speed. The classic, not Alpha Strike. We'll talk about that. But classic can be, especially if you're both new to it, it can be a grind to play.
Classic
Right?
is slow. I don't care how well you
Classic
know it.
is slow.
Classic is slow.
Classic is slow.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, there's
That
nothing
is
wrong.
that is a feature. As if this is a game you're going to like, you have to view that as like that's just how the game is. It is
Yeah.
a slow game. If you're playing like 7,000 BV, you're looking at 2 to 3 hours.
Yeah.
Again, unless
Which,
something
although
crazy happens.
normally, if you think about a non-tournament 40K game.
I agree, but also 2 to 3 hours, 7,000 BV. You're talking about 2 to 4 models.
Exactly.
That's the other thing. So like, yeah, my game of Conquest might take 2 to 3 hours, but I have a lot of models I'm doing. I feel like I'm doing a lot. In Battletech, I don't feel necessarily like I'm doing a lot
That
to
makes sense.
3 hours,
Yeah. No, that makes sense. The community. I do want to mention this because
Yeah.
okay. And I mentioned this when we thought about Heresy too. Every game has this. Every game has the beardy grognard who grumbles about changes or someone coming or whatever. Battletech, though, because of its oldness from the 80s, and because of its, I guess it's more
Historical design. I would say it's a historical design game.
No, it's more historical design. Does tend to attract the grognard armchair generals. Thankfully, I have yet to meet one in person.
Yeah. See it online though.
Oh yeah, I was gonna
yeah.
say that's Facebook is Facebook, Reddit is Reddit. I've yet to meet these people in person, which is weird because I've met 40K people who are like this, but that's a different story entirely. But the community does have a chance to be very, very grognard. For those who don't know what grognard is, by the way, what the hell do I say? Beardy. Dave, help me out on this one.
So when I think of a term like that, I'm thinking
Yeah.
about someone who's often more stuck in
I think
their
there's a-
particular ways, who's very particular about things, and usually in a rather negative fashion.
Definition.
So I think about it as, you talk to...
Holy shit.
What?
There's an actual definition
Well,
for
of course
this.
there is.
Did you wait? Don't,
The
I thought it
modern
was just
age.
I thought no, I thought it was a slang term.
It is
There's
a
an
slang
actual-
term, but there's
actual
definitions of
No,
slang.
no. There's an actual
Wait,
word.
in like Webster's dictionary now?
I'm not even joking. Hold
I
on.
believe you.
Pause. Not pause the video, but grognard is a noun meaning an old soldier. It was often capitalized, a soldier of the original Imperial Guard that was created by Napoleon I in 1804 that made the final French charge at Waterloo. and it
Oh,
comes
okay.
from
From what it
grunt.
actually comes from.
Yeah,
So
and it's French from grognard to grunt or grumble, but it apparently means an old soldier, a grumbly old
yeah.
soldier.
You,
Huh.
you you find more of them when you talk about games that have historical perspectives because you will absolutely have people, and not that everyone do this, but oh, I painted up my Americans. Oh, you use your shade of green is a tiny bit off, and they will
Oh my
point that out,
God.
and they will tell you, and they will complain. Now again, it's historical, so I would say, yeah, you probably do want to try and match, but like, oh, I didn't paint the lapel the right thing, and you're going to hear about it. You'll hear about it every single time.
Like I
There's those
said,
sort of people.
I have yet to meet that person in person. I see them
From
online.
historicals, you'll find them.
Oh, from historicals, you'll find them in person. That's different.
Yeah.
This is less serious than historical. Most people don't care how you paint your battle mechs, also because there's so many goddamn variations of paint.
Yes.
I didn't even know Snord, one of the boxes I just picked up right now. Snord's battle mech is straight up pink and purple with purple stripes, like bright goddamn pink with purple stripes.
Nice.
She was a mercenary. So I'm like, literally anything under the box, you could paint your mechs. I find that people become grognard when you start customizing mechs.
Yeah,
But
you're not
I
fitting what they
noticed I
would have
didn't.
used in that particular time period. No one
Yeah,
put them
but
out on that
also the thing
mech.
is, I don't really custom. The only mechs I customize are the mechs that exist in like Mech Warrior Online that don't exist in the actual game, aka the
Yeah.
Bull Shark. But other than that, I really don't customize mechs because there are so many variations of mechs
Mm.
that you're gonna find one that you like. Like again, there's like how many? Just out of stupid curiosity, give me one hot minute. I want to check.
Okay.
I'm gonna. You don't have to pause. I just want to check something because I'm going to Mordell,
Yeah.
the one of the sites. I'm going Canon only. I'm just typing Locust.
Just to see how
All
many
right,
locusts there are.
34 variants
Yeah.
of one mech. Oh, sorry. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine. 9 minus 34. 10 minus 34 makes it 24. 24 because there's the Locust 2C, which is the clan one. This is technically a different mech. Technically. Um, 24 variants of one mech. 24. Canon, by the way. I didn't do damn this word. I knew it was gonna happen eventually. Acropical?
Wh-
Aproc
What word?
acropophil? Non-canon. We're just gonna say non-canon.
What word are you thinking of trying to
Apropical
say?
apocryphal? Apocryphal.
So I'm gonna. Right now, my screen
Hold
can't
on.
be seen. So type it in the
Bull
Discord
shark.
because I want to know what word you're thinking you're
Apocryph
saying.
apocryphal. Apocryphal. Apocryphal.
They're saying the
Apocryphal?
Agons. Got it. Yeah.
Apocryphal? Am I saying it? That one?
All right. Let me click over to the thing. So
Apocryphal, right?
apocryphal. Yes, apocryphal is
Okay, thank
fine.
God. Oh man, the camera's on. I forgot.
Hip,
I'm like, oh god
hip
damn
up,
it.
but anonymous.
Um, shit was saying. Yeah, so 24 variants, non-apocryphal mets. You'll find something. If custom X, that's where you get the grognards. But just realize that they're out there. Don't be disencouraged with them. No one likes them anyway. Move on. The other reason why you might not want to play, this kind of does suck. Now, Catalyst has done a very good job at redesigning the mechs in plastic.
Yeah.
And the mechs in plastic, 99% of them look good. There's still some odd ones every now and then. I forgot which one I was looking at. I was like, oh God, that's so ugly. There was one. I can't remember who it was, but it was like a. But most of the mechs, let me give you a good example actually. Since Dave has, I guess, the Discord open,
What?
right?
No.
Oh, you
Well,
don't.
you can put it in there if I can do it separate. I'm not showing the Discord.
Okay, okay.
Now,
Just to get
I can set the screen to show things or not. I have it set not to.
copy image. All right.
Yeah.
So here is paste. Oh, it
I have to
works.
try to copy
Here is
images now.
old model for Clint.
Oh, that comes up as. Let me try opening the browser. That's the tiniest thing ever.
Oh, that's tiny. I can open it up bigger. I can open it bigger.
Oh, it. I open it in the browser. It's still a tiny baby. Oh,
Oh my
that
God.
looks awful.
Here,
I mean, in terms of like just the pixelation and trying to raise the image size.
There's the old Clint.
Okay,
Look at that.
I'll open that in a browser so I can show people. Whoa, now it's super big. Let me shrink that a little bit. Okay. I'm showing it for anyone who wants to look at it. It looks like a
Describe
bad
it.
transformer.
That's the 80s, right?
Yes.
Here's the redesign. Let me do that. Here's the redesign.
Okay. For people looking at the redesign, looks like a better Transformer. I don't know. I
It's a yeah.
I like mechs and stuff like that, but I don't like it to the. I will admit, a lot of their mechs, even the like updated ones to
Do
me,
look
a lot of them
goofy.
just look goofy. They really do, and that's a product of the system because you have to have like 400 different types of mechs. How many different types of ways can you do a very similar thing? So yeah, you're gonna get a little crazy with it. But that's just me.
I
I
didn't show
prefer
you the worst.
Transformers.
I didn't show you the worst one, but I could have gone like real. You know what? Let's do it. I want to get
All
you.
right.
This is one of my favorite mechs. This was its original design. Okay, ready?
Yeah. Okay. So what he's putting up is King Crab. Show the King Crab. King Crab's honestly they're one of my favorites as well. But yeah, it has a very 80s sort of prediction of the future with a smoothness look to it.
I
Um,
like how the LRM-15, which is those three five dots you see, is off. How is that shooting to the front?
well, they're missiles. They turn around towards the front.
How does he torso twist?
Hey, if he wants to have some dice on his side like that, that's on him. He don't got a torso twist. He's got arms.
I'll, I'll
Turn
give
the
you the two
puppies.
next pictures. One of them is
Okay.
MechWarrior
Keep
Online,
in
which
mind,
is
we do have an audio format, so the more
oh,
pictures we do that are only
I
pictures.
these are the only ones I promise. But that one's MechWarrior Online, and then this one's what Catalyst redesigned, which is still a little goofy, but
Well, the
dear God in
redesign
heaven,
is the thing we'll look at.
yeah, look at the redesign.
Yes, what you'll notice on that particular one again still looks like a crab. It's a lot more individual plates, less smoothed angles, less rounded
Yeah,
features.
looks
In no way fits
better.
on that hex space that it
No, it
has.
does not. It's massive. It's not even
Yeah,
the biggest one they have, but it's massive.
yeah.
But no, so yeah, that's one of the reasons you might not want. So going back to, I kind of went off key there. The old versus new designs might be a slight problem. You might fall in love with a mech, but the design hasn't been updated yet, and it's still in metal. So let me back up. Sorry, a little bit. All the mechs are done by Iron Wind Metals. They are in metal,
Yeah.
which is pros and cons. We've talked about it with Infinity before, but they are the old design.
Yep.
Catalyst has been doing a damn good job at redesigning them in plastic or resin, but mostly plastic. If you fall in love with a design that is not plastic, you're going to have to contend with the fact that it is metal.
Can you
And
still
most
buy
likely
those
than not,
ones? Are they actively selling them?
oh yeah,
Okay, I wasn't
absolutely
sure if
you
they
can.
if that was like you gotta
Now,
go find it.
what's annoying is that, so I mentioned a little bit about the fluff, right? How we're in the Ill Clan era.
Yeah.
The Ill Clan mechs, which are the new mechs that they have been designing for this era, look amazing. They are fantastic. But some are in metal and some are in plastic. So you're going to get the weird thing where you're going to have a metal miniature and it looks great. It actually looks like a really cool mech, but it is in metal.
Yeah.
Versus, let's say, the Regent, who is in plastic and he's an Ill Clan mech. But like some of the older mechs that have not been redesigned, I don't know. I think they did most of the old mechs already. But some of like no, Yumin's always going to suck. I don't think of like some of the mechs they haven't redesigned yet. But like realize that you might like a mech from the lore, look it up, and it's not redesigned in plastic or resin, and it's not like a new mech from the Clan era. It's old and it looks
It looks like a designed idea of the
from the
80s,
80s.
They
It looks
didn't
like a
have
design.
Ralph Partha working for them.
No, they did not.
Um,
No, they did not.
for a downside that I will mention, because just
Go
knowing
ahead.
some people, I know this can be a downside for them. I know it's potentially at some points for me as well. This is a small dice game. So what I mean by small dice game is, as Dan said, you're only rolling two dice.
Oh
You're
yeah.
rolling two dice to hit. I'm rolling two dice for location, all of that. And yes, across the course of the game, I will roll multiple times. But on, say, my AC 20, so it's essentially an autocan, it's a giant gun. Maybe I have, like, I don't know, let's say I have 5 shots. So the whole game I'm shooting at 5 times. It's possible that even when it should be easy for me to get those good hits, to be able to use this really cool weapon, that I miss those because I'm only getting to actually
That
roll
happened
those,
to
say,
me.
5 times. It's also possible, as we mentioned, that I roll perfect that first time and you're done. So if you're the type of player who doesn't like statistical anomalies, this is definitely not a game for you because
No.
you are looking at, we could line up and I'm playing my 2 clan mechs, you bring your 4 inner sphere, and you just happen to do one die roll, maybe legitimately one die roll better than me, and maybe now I'm going 1v4 or a very crippled one with another one and so on like that. So it's the game absolutely spikes. And since, oh, I'm going to go and try and kick you. Let's 2 dice to see if it works or not. On 2 die rolls, so 2 dice at a time, so essentially rolling a total of 4 dice, I could effectively, or maybe 6 dice, knock myself out for the rest of the game. Because I could miss the kick, fall over, fall unconscious. So it's the same idea if you're say a Blood Bowl player. If you know you're the type of player who doesn't like Blood Bowl because you missed this one thing and it all falls apart.
Yeah, do not play Battletech.
Yeah, this game is that same idea. I feel this is a game to me that you play it once and you're either going to be able to tell you really like this game or you don't. And if you don't, whichever side you're on, I don't think your impression will change. This to me is not a game that you need to try multiple times to try and to get it. Maybe you need to be able to do that to fully understand all the rules. But on your first attempt, you're going to understand if you like this game or not. It's going to make sense to you, or at least enough. Okay, how are they getting some of these numbers? That part doesn't matter. But you're going to know if you like the way it's designed and what it does, or whether you absolutely do not. It hasn't changed in 30 years, so it's going to feel a little bit like a classic game design, a little bit more dated in that sort of aspect.
It is a classic game design.
Yes, so it might feel a little more dated in that aspect. But you're going to know, like I said, play the game for an hour, and you'll know if you like this game or if you will never want to play the game again. And like I said, I don't think this is the thing that you'll change your opinion on. Whichever side you fall on, I think that's the side you're always going to stick to.
With that being said, I will say one thing that I forgot to mention is this game. I did mention about availability. No, that's not what I was going to mention. What was I going to mention at the end of this?
I don't know. You didn't say it yet.
Oh, man.
We talked about just how to get started base, and that's get a box.
Yeah.
Get any box, go on
you know
one
what I forgot
these.
to mention? Terrain. I forgot to mention these guys. Hey, do you want to sponsor us? No. I will say that.
No, they want to. They're more than welcome to. Don't tell them no.
Resources. I mentioned the free resources. I will say that paid resources like terrain are fantastic for this game. It used to be that you kind of just played on hex maps, and hex maps are flat, right? But with the, I don't know if you have this open. If you have
the Hex Tech from Gale Force 9?
Yeah,
I'm open.
If you have that open.
Now. Other people sell things called Hex Tech, like STLs and all, but
but I was gonna say, there are some really cool companies that have been really designing some freaking-tastic stuff. So Gale Force 9, which is what I was going to mention, Hex Tech. If you look at some of the pictures, I know Goonhammer did a review on them. They're pre-painted. Buy the box, open it, set it on the map. Congratulations, you're done. And what's really cool is you see how they have hexes on the bottom of those buildings?
Yeah.
Those are removable. So if you want to play Alpha Strike, just take them off the hexes. And now you have buildings.
You see it right there, though, on the hexes, but you can just pop them right off.
You pop them right off. And again, they're pre-painted, which is, oh God, so nice. Sometimes you just don't want to freaking paint buildings.
I don't. Just in general, I don't.
And I know they do roads too. Oh, there's
that is not the thing I found fun.
Yeah, they do roads too. I was just looking at the picture right here.
Yeah, I'm going to the Trinity City and stuff like that.
Yeah, so just this game, over the past couple years has kind of just exploded with popularity, which is fine by me because I love the game. But I want to stress the fact, if I want to end on a final note, end on, one TLDR, is the fact that you don't really need a lot of models, right? If I'm going to play a game with Dave this Friday, let's say, and he says 7,000 BV, I pack up 4 mechs. I pick up my cheat sheet, my dice. I'm done. I'm not taking multiple cases to a store, No. It's just, that's kind of nice. I'm older. I got kids. Sometimes I don't want to carry 2 cases to the store unless it's Conquest. It's kind of nice. It sounds stupid. Yeah. I feel old saying this, but it is what it is.
It's a more, to me, even with its complication, it is a more relaxed sort of game. And what I mean by that is, again, we're sitting across from each other. If it's just, say, the 2 of us playing, and I will say, I'm not a fan of 8-person games or something crazy like that. I just don't enjoy this. But I don't enjoy those in any system at all. But if it's just the 2 of us playing, then we can both be sitting in a seat. We're not really even have to reach very far. It's not a very big map at the end of the day. You don't have to go walk around. When I'm thinking of some other games, like the other Monday, I played 2 games of Conquest. That's like active. I had to actively be moving, engaging in that sort of way. Here, you can feel more of what you might call the beer and pretzels, and I think you have to treat it that way because there is that shot that I roll one die roll great, and you missed your die roll, and I'm crushing you because of a single die roll.
Oh, I will absolutely say this is a beer. Like this is probably the definition of a beer and pretzels. Again, it fits in the dining room table. I could invite you over. We play a game. I get like a couple beers and we play.
Yep.
Like this, yeah.
Yeah, it fits. It fits that better. This is also a game I've seen people run at like conventions and stuff like that because they just run, oh, here's a big map, grab a mech, and we're all doing this sort of thing. So it goes well for those sort of experiences, and it does play well at multiple players. That's just not a thing that I in general enjoy, and it's nothing against the game. That's true in pretty much all games for me.
As someone who also doesn't like playing with multiple players, I do not like playing with multiple players. But if I had a choice of game to do that with, it'd be this.
That's probably true for me as well.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I can only imagine
3 I'm fine with. But when it gets above 3, I just don't enjoy it.
Can you imagine with 40K like stratagems and everything? I would lose my absolute mind.
Yeah. Well, they were doing that for on Monday for Song of Ice and Fire. They were doing a 2v1 because there's 3 of them there. One guy was playing the Free Folk, and they had Starks versus Starks and Starks Night Watch versus Free Folk. The Free Folk keep coming back, and they had to survive out a certain amount of rounds, keeping wall section. So it was like a cool concept, and like that. Okay, 2v1, that's all right. Anything more than that, I don't want to. I don't want to do it. So maybe one of these Mondays actually play Ice and Fire when they play it. I have like 2 different factions for Ice and Fire. All right. I think that'll do it for us for this particular episode. Like I said, there might be a little bit of chopping and pasting in this. Unfortunately, I just didn't realize that on the one screen when I had it up, it wasn't showing everything. So I'll make sure it makes sense when I put it. But there's certain spots we had to re-record little bits because I just didn't notice that. As always,
that's fine. I haven't been on in a while.
Yes. Yeah. And with having a new kid, that might also be a thing shortly as well.
Oh my God, yeah.
Give me 1 second. All right. As always, we do thank everyone for watching or listening, or whatever way that you engage with this particular content. I know it's been a bit since we'd put out a full normal episode like this. My hope is to be able to do a few. I know for the next bit, I know it's really bad for Steve. I know Dan's about to have another kid pretty soon. So like that might be tough, but I'm at least going to put out some stuff. I'm hoping maybe have some other locals on or just some other people to be able to discuss some things, or maybe I'll put out some more full stuff. But I've been putting out a lot of Conquest stuff. There's some other things I do want to do as well. I do want to start talking about thoughts related to the new edition of Sigmar. I might have some of the other locals on to talk about it as well. Or as if Dan can squeeze in, we'll have to kind of see. But we're going to keep putting stuff out. I'm recording a lot more battle reports. I'm recording 1 to 2 a week now. I'm starting the editing process now. My hope is for you to see one of them this weekend. There was a little bit of growing pains with some of those because it's been a bit since we've done some of it. There were some weird audio issues. They're all kind of sorted out now, but it took a couple battle reports to do that. So some of them, it might be just more of quick form of going over it and discussing decisions that I made and what my opponent did and where I think they made good choices or bad choices, all of that, to kind of do more of a tactical overview rather than a long form watch. So you're probably going to get 1 to 2 of those, and then you're going to get some long form with the tactical overview. I like the idea of trimming them to that as well. I do want to just pop out some long forms as well, because some people enjoy that. I know when I'm painting, I'll just put those on. But some more that are a little bit more tight to like active pay attention to get some things and kind of get out of there. I'm also going to try to work on some of those. For any of that stuff, obviously feedback is, constructive feedback is always greatly appreciated and willing to alter things in a useful way. For the light e-bagging that we'll do, 2 things. 1, if you play Conquest and you want to pick up some stuff, we do have a code in the show notes beneath. It's Train Kickers. It's the code. Huh?
An affiliate link.
Yep.
Yay.
We have an affiliate link. You save 10%, helps us out as well. So we do thank everyone who's used it. There's been a good amount of use of it, but especially that, like I said, if you're wanting to get in the Conquest, play Conquest stuff, pick it up. That's a way to save yourself some money and help us out. The other one, since this isn't a Conquest episode, I'll mention more as our Patreon. We do have one. If you enjoy the content we put out and you want to support us in that way, we have that as well. We have low-level tiers and stuff like that. I do want to do more with it. I've kind of gotten away from it for a little bit, mostly because we haven't been putting out what that was more aimed towards. As I said, if you're buying Conquest, do that instead. Save yourself some money as well. But if you're not, or if you want to go the other route, we do have that as well. It helps keep the lights on over here and all of that, because podcasting does actually have a decent number of costs associated to it. And most of these companies don't talk to us, so it's a lot more on us for all this kind of stuff. So, for other things to expect from us, we'll probably do about the new edition of Sigmar very soon. I want to paint up some stuff to do a Spearhead or Vanguard, whatever they call the box. Be able to do one of those.
Spearhead. If
Spearhead.
it's Sigmar, it's Spearhead.
Yeah, I want to record one of those with the new stuff. See what we think of it, because I don't have a full force anymore. Though we might play with some other people that have some full stuff. Plenty more Conquest stuff. I just put out a video related to bad lists. I'm working on another video probably tomorrow related to shooting in lists, how much you need, stuff like that. Variety of other ideas coming out, and then getting back to some unit reviews as well. And like I said, battle reports are coming out for that. We'll hopefully get to some other games. Just that's what I've been playing lately, because that's what we know we can get fit in when Steve gets there. But all right, I think that does it for us tonight. So on behalf of everyone here at the show, has a good hobbying, some great gaming.